Many of you are here because there's some drive brought you here, some desire. And I think it's important that you all really ask yourself, why did I come here tonight? Really. Really, you're here now. You may as well. So really be honest. Why did I come here tonight? Is there something you're looking for? Is there something you're trying to get away from? Is there something you're trying to get or keep away? Maybe you're doing it because, you know, your son dragged you here. Then to ask yourself, if I had that, if I had what I was looking for, what would that give me? To really discover underneath what you're looking for, what is it that you're really looking for? And then to even look even deeper. So maybe you're here to find peace of mind, a common drive. And so then to ask, if I had peace of mind, what would that give me? Maybe there's some deeper desire. Maybe if I had peace of mind, then I'd be happy. Then my husband would something. Then my children would love me. Then I'd be successful. Then I'd something. Check and see, this is how the human mind works. It layers desires on top of each other until you can no longer actually remember what the deepest desire you actually have. And really that's why I'm here, is to uncover what is your deepest desire. Really. We all are going to die. These bodies will die. This is fundamental. And so then, if you really take that in, if you really allow yourself to meet that truth, how is it that you want to spend the rest of your life? From what I see, what I've witnessed, is that most people at this current stage of evolution is living in a state of resistance with the world. There's a lot that we wish was different. It's a nice way to put it. We don't want this, and we wish it was more like that. And we feel like if we can just change X, Y, Z, if I can just get this, if they just do this, then I can be happy. And actually what I see is that most people are really deeply unhappy, deeply unfulfilled, but we've trained ourselves to cover over that with an act that says, I'm okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm happy enough. The problem's not with me. Clearly the problem is with you. But what most people don't realize is that this is really just a play of psychology. This is just the ego and the superego. This whole thing is made up. And the core delusion that's really causing all of this suffering, that's causing war, that causes actually killing in the name of truth, killing in the name of God. The core delusion is the thought, me, the thought, I. And so really what satsang is about, it's really about self-inquiry. It's about checking to see, who do I think I am? Who do I think I am? And is that really me? Really that basic. It starts off that basic. And so I really invite you to question that right now. What are the assumptions that I carry with me about myself? I'm a man or I'm a woman. It's a very fundamental one, which is attached to the thought, I am this body. I'm a person, I'm Australian. I have these relationships. I have this past. I have these desires. I have these children. And this is how we live. This is how the world is living at the moment. And this, really, if you talk to the top psychiatrists, the top psychologists in the world, they'll all tell you that the ego is not real. The ego is a thought that we think to ourselves in our head, we then believe it, and then we act from it. And if you just check and see, if you just gather up all the me-ness, all the I-ness, and you just see what happens if there's no me? What happens if Jared no longer exists? What would the world be like with no Jared? With no Kate? No Stevie? If you really investigate that, which I invite you to, you might find that there's great relief. I don't want to put words in your head, but if you really deeply investigate, you'll find that every problem that you feel that you have in your life, at the very core of it is me. Me and mine. And me and mine is a made-up survival mechanism of the body. It helps us to survive. If I have boundaries, if this is my body and this is my responsibility and I have to look after it, then I'm going to help it survive. And so it served the human race. We've become the most successful species on the planet in terms of survival. But now, something is waking up in the ether, in the wider community. People are not satisfied living a life of anger, living a life of resentment, living a life of fear, living a life of feeling unworthy, not good enough. I can tell you from my perspective is that I experience deep, deep suffering. Deep psychological and emotional suffering. And I recognized it was psychological. It was nothing, because there was no physical suffering. There was nothing wrong with my body. I had sufficient finances. I had a great family. I was young in a very affluent country, a very lucky country. There was absolutely nothing wrong with my life, and yet an enormous depression was there, an enormous sense of disconnection, that I'm different, there's something wrong with me, I'm not good as you, I'm not good enough. And I need to do something in order to prove that I'm good enough. I need to show you that I'm good enough. I need to succeed, I need to make money, I need to do well. And this is the trance of society. This is the trance of the ego. Because the problem is that this I thought, this thought and sense I, is never good enough. Because it's only a thought. It's two-dimensional. The root of all ego is unhappiness, is not good enough. And so everybody's faking it. At the core, everybody feels unworthy, and everybody's faking it on the outside. Really. Something Eli, my teacher, said to me. He said, everybody's faking it. And as soon as he said it, I looked around, and I knew he was right. I could see it. I went to my parents and I, asked them a few questions and just kind of looked at them. And I could see that they had no idea what was going on. And that's the good news, because no one knows what's going on. No one knows what's going on. But there's an opportunity to not deny that, to not pretend I know what's going on. Because this pretend, this denial, is where suffering lies. But in the surrender to not knowing, just try it now. I don't know, and allow yourself not to know. What does it feel like to not know anything at all? If you really allow it. A huge relief. That's right. Because society wants you to know. Everyone's expecting you to know, and if you don't know, they jump on you. You don't know. And really, part of what I'm doing here is just to confirm to you my discovery that no one knows anything. That actually knowledge, true wisdom, is actually already here. It's here in its potential state. It's like a seed for a tree. Papaji talks about a mustard seed. It's the tiniest seed. And in that tiny, tiny seed is enough information to grow an enormous tree. To grow food, to photosynthesize, to respirate. Really. This is not some mystical thing I'm speaking about. Really and truly, the wisdom of the universe is already contained within itself. It's not something new that you acquire by reading books. Any book you read will have information that came from some other person. Where did he get the information from? And so, here in satsang, the opportunity is to put down any expectation you have on yourself to know anything. Any expectation you have on anybody else to know anything. Any expectation you have on yourself to be somebody. What if you just be nothing? What's lost when you be nothing? As an experiment, just be nothing. Try it out. And this is sacrilegious. You say be nothing to the world and you get killed for that. The Sufis in Pakistan and Afghanistan, when they announce I am love, they get killed for that. And so here, we're protected somewhat. So we have permission to not be anybody. And the irony is, the second you stop trying to be somebody, what's left is what you already are. And you find that what's left is pure, unadulterated consciousness, which is what I started this conversation about. You find if you make no effort to think of yourself, to try to make an effort to be somebody, to do anything, what's left? What's left is ineffable. What's left is indescribable. It's not something you can really talk about. It's very difficult to speak of. But what's left is your own self. What's left is the truth of who you are that doesn't come and go with the next thought. And so at the very bottom is this open, empty, free consciousness. And then a thought arises. It's difficult for me to make one up, but the thought I arises. And with the thought I arises everything else. All of your problems, all of your desires, all of your past, all of your future. And then at some point this I thought disappears. Every night it disappears when you go to sleep, and we love sleep. We love a deep sleep. where there's nothing, where you're nobody. It's deep rest for the body and the mind to sleep. And so Papaji calls it sleep when you're awake. To sleep when you're awake is to rest the mind so deeply that there's not a single thought. And if a thought arises, you don't touch it, and you rest again. And find out what is lost if I just rest. What is here when my mind is fully at rest? Who am I when I'm fully at rest? And so this is not something the mind wants. This is something that the mind will fight. And that fight actually brings you deeper, because you're challenged further to not touch the next thought, to not touch the next incarnation of yourself. Every time you say I, you incarnate into some idea of yourself. Second, you don't touch that incarnation, that you don't touch that thought I, then emptiness, silence, freedom, peace is already here. And it is already here, so it doesn't require any effort. And so I don't know how clear and logical that was. Some of you already know this and know yourself, and some of you this is very new, and so this might sound ridiculous to you. It sounds ridiculous to 99% of the rest of the world. And so there's an invitation to join in this discussion, to bring your questions, because your questions serve everybody. Really, we all have the same mind and we all have the same heart. At the very depths, we all want the same thing, and we all are the same thing. And we actually have the same psychosis. And so I invite you to bring yourself and to bring your psychosis and to have it investigated, to flesh it out. And so that it's not just a speech, a lecture, so that it actually has meaning for you in your particular life experience. And it serves not just you, but it serves everybody.